Welcome everyone. So this is our journey of education where we are presenting the source-based questions for class 12th history exam. The exam is scheduled on 28th of March. So we all are targeting very good results. And in the series of source-based, this is the third part. So in this we are covering the third book, that is the modern history, modern Indian history. And here we begin with the first source, chapter 11, that is the rebels and the Raj. We're talking about the British Raj and the revolt of 1857. So this chapter is very important as far as 8 marks questions and the source based questions and even the map based questions are considered. So here we are discussing about a very important leader who played a key role in the revolt of 1857 in spreading the news or the information. So here we talk about a fakir, a Maulvi Abdullah Shah. So he was educated in Hyderabad. He became a preacher when he was young in 1856. He was seen moving from village to village, preaching jihad, that is religious war, against the British and urging people to rebel. He moved in a palanquin with drum beaters in front and followers at the rear. Therefore, he is known as Danka Shah. So this is a very important one mark question also, that who is also known as Danka Shah. So Maulvi Abdullah Shah. British officials panicked as thousands began following the Maulvi and many Muslims began seeing him as an inspired prophet. So this is the complete source which is given in your NCERT book. You must read it thoroughly. Now moving on to the questions. As told many times, we get direct and indirect questions. So here comes the first direct question. What was the nickname of Maulvi Abdullah Shah? That's Danka Shah. As per this excerpt, name the battle in which army of sepoys defeated the defeated British forces under Henry Lawrence. So that is Battle of Chennath. Apart from Danka Shah, name two more leaders of 1857 who did not belong to elite family. So this is the indirect question. And even there is one more question. Who were the different leaders of the revolt of 1857? Very important. This question can come for 3 marks as well as for 8 marks. So two leaders are Shamal from Barot and Gunu from Jharkhand. Gunu was a tribal and he was a leader. Moving on to the second source of the day. So this talks about the Zamindars, like why the Zamindars were frustrated because of the British Raj and why they participated. So we know that Zamindars, they enjoyed a very high position and power in India before the arrival of Britishers. And when the Britishers came to India with their exploitative policies, the power and the position of the Zamindars started declining, right? They were just the tax collectors and nothing more than that. So this particular passage talks about all the rights which were taken away, right? So it is evident that the British government in making zamindari settlements have imposed exorbitant jummas and have disgraced and ruined several zamindars by putting up their estates for public auction for arrears of rent in so much in the institution of a suit by a common ryot, a maidservant or a slave. The respectable zamindars are summoned into court, arrested, put in gaol and disgraced. So the ryot, this is a term which is used for the farmers. And here we need to know about the auction of Bardhaman Palace. That is also important question. So Zamindars who earlier had their own courts, now they were being called into the courts of Zamindars. Sorry, the court of British government. So it was indeed a great mishap for the Zamindars. So now let's come to the questions. Okay, we are continuing with the same. Now, why the merchants they participated? So the merchants they participated because the British government had all the rights over the trade. India is known across the world for its goods like spices, textiles, and Indian goods were in great demand always. But after the coming of British government, even the trading rights were taken over by them and merchants wanted independence of trade. So that's why they participated. Now let's come to the question. The reasons why zamindars they participated, what were the major concern? So high revenue demand, which was unflexible, unnecessary tolls and subscriptions, and court litigation. How the profits of merchants were extracted by British government? So profit were taxed with postage, tolls, and subscriptions. Again, revenue. How would the life of merchants and zamindars have changed if Badshahi government was installed? So let me tell you, but here Badshahi government refers to the Mughal period. So the target, the goal of the revolt, the people who revolted in the revolt of 1857 was to bring back the Mughal empire in India, and they wanted Bahadur Shah Zafar to be their leader of the revolt and to rule the country. So the changes would have been no extortion for zamindars, light revenue demand, zamindar would have fully authority in zamindari, trade in sea and land will be open for merchants without any restriction. So this is what the zamindars and merchants wanted. Now moving on to the next source regarding public servants. So now why the public servants they wanted to be a part of this rebel. So it was that they were disrespected. They were considered to be subordinate to the Britishers. They were paid very low, right? So you can come to this third line, the bottom third line. Therefore, all the natives in the British service ought to be alive with their religion and interest, and abjuring their loyalty to the British, side with the Badshahi government and obtain salaries of 200 and 300 rupees a month for the present and be entitled to high posts in future. So now let's see. The fourth group is the artisans. By artisans, we mean the weavers, cotton dressers, carpenters, blacksmiths, shoemakers, etc., out of employ and have engrossed their occupations, so that every description of native artisan has been reduced to beggary. But under the Badshahi government, the native artisans will exclusively be employed in the service of the kings, the rajas, and the rich, and this will no doubt ensure their prosperity. Therefore, these artisans ought to renounce the English services. So they wanted Badshahi government to come back and the British Raj to end. Now the next group which participated, they are the Pandits, the Fakirs and other learned people. The Pandits and Fakirs being the guardians of Hindu and Mohammedan religions respectively, and the Europeans being the enemies of both the religions. And as at present a war is going against the English on account of religion, the Pandits and Fakirs are bound to present themselves to me and take their share in the holy war. So the biggest threat to Hindus and Muslims here was that the Christianity. The Britishers came and they bring Christianity and they were influencing Indians to take up this new religion. Now let's come to the questions. How did British rule affect the artisans? So they were deprived of the employment as a market in Europe, as well as India was overthrown by machine-made goods. Also, the Britishers, they were taking away all the raw material which was produced in the country. What promises here being made by rebels to artisans? Artisans will exclusively be employed in the service of kings, raja and the rich. Means the good days will be coming back to the artisans. While the public servants were dissatisfied with British government, they were not respected, they were paid very low and no manner of influence under the colonial rule. All the posts of dignity were exclusively held by the government. So that's why all these different groups, they wanted to participate in the revolt of 1857. Now moving on to source number 5. This is one of the arzis, that is a petition of or application of rebel sepoy that have survived. So you can read and you can find out like what type of comparison is drawn. What was India before the arrival of Britishers and what India had become. Moving on to the questions. Okay, we are continuing with the source. So you can read this source properly and keep on underlining the important keywords. And as I have told in my first part, that you must be reading the questions first and then coming on to the source. And also use your reading time, 15 minutes reading time for solving the source-based questions. As per this excerpt, what was the prime reason behind the revolt of 1857? So it is the restoration of faith, protection of the religion. State one grievance of sepoys, racial discrimination, promotion, pension and terms of service. They were treated inferior. What according to sepoys were against their religion? According to sepoys, the cartridge made up of fat of cow and pig was against their religion. So there was a rumor going across the country that the new rifles which have come up, the Enfield rifle, And the loading of that rifle, it required the biting of the cartridge with the teeth. And while doing so, it was believed that the cartridge was made up of fat of cow and pig. And putting the fat of cow inside the mouth was highly irreligious for Hindus and of the pig for Muslims. So that's why this became a very important reason for the revolt of 1857. Now let's move to next chapter. So chapter number 12, this is deleted in the exam this time. This chapter is basically the colonial cities. Moving on to chapter number 13, that is the nationalist movement and Mahatma Gandhi. So this talks about the entire journey of India's freedom struggle under the leadership of Mahatma Gandhi. So Mahatma Gandhi was profoundly critical of the modern age in which machines enslaved humans and displaced labor, a very, very important source which tells us that what harm machines are doing to the mankind. People are moving unemployed and machines are working. So this is what Mahatma Gandhi wanted to say. Coming on to the questions. Why did Gandhiji criticize craze for machines? We know it's because of unemployment. Describe the view of Gandhiji on Charkha. He saw Charkha as a tool to promote self-reliant and equal society. Which qualities of Gandhiji made him the leader of masses? So first is his efforts on ending the social inequalities, his attire, and his association with indigenous products like khadi. So this is what Gandhiji made himself as the leader of the common people, because he used to resemble the Indian mass, basically the farmers, the peasants, artisans. So the next source is taken from Dandi March, like why Gandhiji has chosen salt as a symbol of protest when he wanted to start civil disobedience movement in 1930. So the famous Dandi March started from Sabarmati Ashram on 12th of March 1930, and finally Gandhiji reached at Dandi on 6th of April 1930. There he manufactured salt by boiling the seawater. Breaking of the colonial rule, breaking the salt law became the symbol of the beginning of civil disobedience movement. So now let's come to the questions. This is a very, very important source. Why did Gandhiji choose salt as a medium of protest? Because it is indispensable for households and the heavy taxes which was implied on it. So salt here symbolizes unity also, because this is something which is used by everybody. Rich, poor, whatsoever language, whatsoever religion you're following, everyone uses salt. So this was chosen by Gandhiji. Describe the features of salt law. So heavy tax on salt as much as 1,000% and domestic production of salt was prohibited. That means the entire monopoly of salt production was in the hand of Britishers. Why the salt were destroyed by the British? So it was basically to prevent that salt does not fall into the hands of Indians. So it shows the greed of Britishers, the exploitation nature of Britishers. The remaining salt, which could not have been sold at heavy profit, was deliberately destroyed by British to prevent their use from locals. So this is what this is actually destroying the natural resource. So on 5th of April 1930, when Gandhiji he reached Dandi, what he said. So that is all included here. What we should be doing as Indians and what is going to be the course for CDM is given in this passage. Moving on to the questions. Why was Gandhiji astonished on reaching Gandhi? In the beginning of the journey, he felt that he would be arrested before completing the journey, but he was not. So he was surprised. Why is Gandhiji congratulating the British government? He is congratulating for not arresting Gandhiji and his volunteers during Dandi Yatra. Basically, the reason that why Britishers did not arrest Gandhiji, because they felt that Gandhiji will not be able to reach Dandi. Right? So that's why. Describe the notable consequences of Dandi Yatra. Initiated CDM, global attention, it gathered female participation, and it shook the British government, the foundation of British government. Next source, at Roundtable Conference. This was a second Roundtable Conference. There were three Roundtable conferences held in the year 1930, 31 and 32. Gandhiji attended only second Roundtable Conference, and B.R. Ambedkar was the one who attended all three. So here during second roundtable conference, Gandhiji stated his arguments and he was against separate electorates for the depressed classes. And this is basically the beginning of partition which started in the year 1909. So it was a form of same. Separate electorates to untouchables will ensure them bondage in perpetuity. Do you want the untouchables to remain untouchables forever? This is what Gandhiji believed in. You can read this source. It's given in NCERT book as well. Moving on to the questions now. In which roundtable conference Gandhiji participated? So this is indirect question for you, for which you need to have the knowledge of this topic. So it was second. Was Gandhiji in support of separate electorates? No, not at all. Gandhiji said that the concept of separate electorates will bring disunity in the country. He felt that it would widen the social distance and untouchables would never come into the mainstream. As per Gandhiji, what could have improved the conditions of untouchables? It is a destruction of untouchability. And according to Article 17 of our Constitution, untouchability is banned. It cannot be, it is abolished, it cannot be practiced anymore. So this was something which was the belief of Gandhiji. For him, the bar sinister which was imposed by superior class must be destroyed first. Now, source number 5. In response to Mahatma Gandhi's opposition to the demand for separate electorates for depressed classes, this is what Bhimrao Ambedkar has written. Ambedkar, he organized depressed classes association for all the Dalits. He used to call untouchables as Dalits. So he said that separate electorates is must for depressed classes. Coming on to the questions. When the concept of separate electorates was introduced in India, 1909, also known as Minto-Morley reforms. We call it as Government of India Act 1909, and it is also known as Morley-Minto reforms. And it is believed that this was basically the beginning of India's partition. So this was the foundation which resulted in the partition of a country. What was the condition of Dalits as per Ambedkar? So he said that they are not being honored. Why was Ambedkar in favor of separate electorates? According to him, some share in the political power is required for the upliftment of the Dalits. Chapter number 14 is also deleted. That is the partition. Chapter number 15, that is the path towards making of India's constitution. Well, sir, I must congratulate Pandit Nehru for the fine expression he gave to the spirit of the Indian people when he said that no imposition from the British will be accepted by the Indian people. So this is source number 1. So this statement has been given by a socialist, Somnath Lahiri, who said that although the Britishers have gone, but whatever we are doing with our constitution, it was already visioned by the Britishers. So this is the entire paragraph. You can read it as given in NCERT book also. Let's come to the questions. Who is the narrator of this source? It's nowhere mentioned in this source, but it can be asked. Indirect question. Somnath Lahiri, who was a socialist. What concern is raised here in the excerpt? The involvement of British during the making of the constitution. All right, he said that although the Britishers have left, but their views, their vision, they're still here, and Indians are using it in the making of the constitution. Which obstacle in framing the constitution has been? What are the obstacles? In the presence of British, multiple obstacles were there. Like final power was in the hands of British, threat of division was there. Nehru had to negotiate with British even for the minor changes. So second source, here you can see the name of the person is mentioned, the leader, Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel, also known as the Iron Man of our country. So he has given his views regarding separate electorates. Vallabhbhai Patel was one of them who did not agree with the concept of separate electorate. He said that it is not less than a poison, the concept of reservations and all. So now let's come to the question. Who initiated the demand of separate electorate in the Constituent Assembly of India? So it was B. Poker Bahadur. Very important question. Why did British introduce separate electorate? They actually wanted to continue with their policy of divide and rule, which we saw in the year 1905 also during the Bengal division. And they continued it till the end. And what we came up in the year 1947 was the division of the partition of India and Pakistan. Was Sardar Patel against the separate electorates? Yes, he was. He said that separate electorate can fuel division, encourage identity politics, and undermine national unity by emphasizing religious or ethnic differences, potentially leading to marginalization, discrimination, and a focus on the interest over broader societal concerns. So, the Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel was also against. Next source is, I believe separate electorates will be societal. So this statement is again a very important, and we all need to remember that who gave this statement. So now let's come to the question. See, the very first question is itself asking about the narrator. So that is your Govind Ballabh Pant. Why is narrator considering separate electorates as societal for minorities? He believed that it would do more harm to the minorities than will do benefit to them, because the minorities will never be able to come to mainstream. Describe the negative consequences of separate electorates as highlighted. So he thought that separate electorates will increase the communal divide. People will fight amongst each other. It will bring more of disunity in the country. He, along with many leaders, believed that separate electorate played an important role in partition. And he was correct also. Welcoming the objective resolution introduced by Jawaharlal Nehru, let me tell you, it was introduced on 13th of December 1946. N.G. Ranga, what he said. So here N.G. Ranga has given the views that who are the real minorities. So there were many minorities in our country. We can consider minorities the people who were backward, the religious minorities, right? The people who belong to the lowest caste of societies, the tribal people, and so on. So according to N.G. Ranga, not the Hindus in the so-called Pakistan province, not the Sikhs, not the Muslims. No, the real minorities are the masses of this country. These people are so depressed and oppressed and suppressed till now that they're not able to take advantage of the ordinary rights. What is the position? You go to the tribal areas. So this statement itself tells us that according to N.G. Ranga, tribals were the minorities. Let's come to the question. Who proposed the objective resolution and when? I told you it was Jawaharlal Nehru on 13th of December 1946. Please learn this statement by heart. In this excerpt, what does the term free market mean? It means the existence of private enterprises. Who are called the real minorities here and why? So according to N.G. Ranga, they are the poor people, economically backward, because they have very less share in the resources of country, and they're often prone to the exploitation of rich class. And this is what is happening in our country till date also. So a few months before his death, Mahatma Gandhi reiterated his views on the language question. So again, this was one of the hotly debated question. The first hotly debated question was that who the concept of separate electorate should be there or not. The second hotly debated topic in the Constituent Assembly was what is going to be the national language of a country. And the third hotly debated topic was the center-state relation and the division of the power between the center and state government. So this Hindustani should be neither Sanskritized Hindi nor Persianized Hindu, but a happy combination of both. Mahatma Gandhi believed that Hindustani should be the national language of a country. So this source you all can read. Now coming on to the questions. Which language was favored by Mahatma Gandhi to be as a national language? So it is Hindustani. What made Hindustani language so much acceptable? Because Hindustani is a symbol of communal harmony. It had elements from Sanskrit as well as Persian. So promoting Hindu-Muslim unity, which Gandhiji always wanted from day one. Why Hindustani could not become the national language of India? Because by the time of independence, it had been inclined towards Sanskrit. Hence, the element of communal harmony was missing. So we could not keep it. Moving on to the next source. So this is a very important source, and it is often there for the pre-boards and for the board exams. So these are the views. My mind goes back to the various constituent assemblies. So here in this particular paragraph, you'll find the narrator is talking about the great French Revolution, which was in the year 1789, and about the American Bill of Rights, which was there in America after its independence. So both the countries, America as well as France, should be, and they are, a great source of inspiration for India's constitution. Coming on to the questions. So which constituent assemblies I mentioned here? So that is of America and Paris, or you can say France. Why the narrator is referring achievements of other constituent assembly? He wanted to make the members realize the gravity of the task they are heading up to. That means we need to be very careful. The members of the assembly need to be very careful as they are working upon the destiny of the country. And they must go through the history of the world so that they can have better experience and they can take the best decisions for the nation. What is the main message of the narrator? Narrator is here reminding the members of Constituent Assembly that they are shouldering a significant responsibility of framing the Constitution. Hence, they should uphold the values of democracy and the republic. So that's why you can say that the Indian Constitution is also known as the bag of borrowing, because we have taken the concepts from different countries of the world like Russia, Germany, America, Australia, and so on. So with this, we have come to an end. I have covered all the source-based questions. All the important sources are there in part 1, 2, and 3 of this series. So you all should go through it, prepare thoroughly, and by the end of this, I just hope and believe that each one of you will score 12 on 12 for this section. Thank you. Do like, share, and subscribe. And we are really waiting for your valuable feedback so that we can work upon many more videos together. And the result, which comes in the month of May, will be a party day for each one of us. Thank you and stay blessed.